Stop what you are doing. Cease all distractions. Listen with the full intensity of your being. For if you allow this moment to slip through your fingers, if you permit these words to pass without penetrating the very core of your consciousness, you may spend the rest of your precious days walking this earth as a pauper when the blood of kings flows through your veins. The chasm between the man who bends the world to his iron will and the man who is crushed beneath its weight is not fortune. It is not talent, gifted at birth. It is the way his mind operates, the beliefs that pulse through his thoughts like electric current through copper wire. I have not come before you today to entertain your idle moments. I have not come to sprinkle sugar upon your dreams or whisper gentle encouragements to your slumbering spirit. I have come to shatter the chains of mediocrity that bind you, to awaken the sleeping giant that dwells within the chambers of your consciousness. Within the depths of your being lies the power to summon forth wealth beyond measure, position of commanding influence, greatness that echoes through generations, and absolute dominion over every condition that dares to challenge your path. But mark these words well. This power remains dormant, useless as a diamond buried in desert sand, until you first claim absolute sovereignty over that which governs all else, the magnificent machinery of your own mind. This discourse will not merely dance upon your eardrums like pleasant music. It will penetrate the very essence of your spirit, restructuring the foundations upon which your destiny rests. If you surrender your full attention to my guidance, you shall discover that the invisible laws governing all success are not concealed from you in some distant realm. They stand before you now, awaiting nothing more than your unwavering belief, your complete obedience, your final decision. I implore you with the urgency of a man who has witnessed both the glorious triumph and the tragic waste of human potential. Do not drift away. Do not allow your attention to wander like a ship without anchor. Absorb every syllable, for I have constructed this message as a master architect builds a cathedral, with divine purpose, with natural law, with spiritual power that transcends the visible world. This is not wisdom you consume once and discard like yesterday's newspaper. This is the living water you must return to each dawn and dusk, as surely as your lungs return to the breath of life. Listen to these words, not merely once, but until they become the rhythm of your heartbeat. For repetition is the sacred alchemy by which faith is forged from the raw materials of thought. Let these truths seep into your subconscious mind like rain penetrating fertile soil, until they cease to feel like my words and become your own eternal convictions. That is the precise moment when the world will no longer bend to my will, but to yours. Now steel your mind for revelation, for I am about to demonstrate beyond all doubt that when you think as if the impossible is merely another word waiting to be redefined, when you believe as if the result already pulses with life in your hands, and when you act as if the universe itself must bow to your commands, it will. The instant you embrace this truth with every fiber of your being, the laws of success will emerge from the shadows where they have been waiting. They will become your faithful servants, your willing instruments of power. Let us begin this journey of transformation. The first revelation, the hidden power that governs your thoughts. If the treasures you desire remain beyond your grasp, it is because your mind has not yet accepted that you are worthy to possess them. The world is not your adversary, plotting against your success in dark corners. It is your perfect mirror, reflecting not the infinite potential that sleeps within you, but the dominant beliefs that rule your consciousness day and night. If you carry in your mind the poison of doubt, the paralysis of hesitation, or the shadows of fear, then the world will return to you circumstances molded by those very states of consciousness. But if you flood your mind with the golden light of belief, the steel of unwavering decision, and the fire of definite purpose, then you will witness the world reshape itself to match your inner commands. You are not the helpless victim of circumstances beyond your control. You are the master architect, the primary builder of every condition that surrounds you. Your construction tools are invisible to the naked eye, but they possess power that dwarfs the mightiest machines ever built. Your thoughts, your beliefs, the constant dialogue that runs through the corridors of your mind. These are the instruments with which you carve your destiny from the raw stone of possibility. A man becomes precisely what he believes himself to be, for belief is thought fused with the molten fire of emotion and crystallized through decisive action. Those dominating thoughts, once married to feeling and repeated with the conviction of absolute certainty, descend like seeds into the fertile soil of your subconscious mind. There, in that mysterious realm where all creation begins, they are transformed through invisible processes into the solid reality of your outer world. This is not wishful philosophy spinning pretty theories. This is immutable law, as certain as the law of gravity, as reliable as the rising of the sun. There exists no magic in this process, no mystical mystery that only the chosen few can comprehend. The great secret possessed by every successful man who ever lived is elegantly simple. They chose their thoughts with the precision of a master craftsman selecting his finest tools. They backed those thoughts with faith that burned like an unquenchable flame, and they held to them with persistence that would shame the mightiest oak tree. They did not abandon belief to the whims of chance or the mercy of circumstance. They transformed belief into a daily discipline, a sacred ritual performed with religious devotion. When I declare that the world bends to the man who acts as if nothing is impossible, I speak not of fantasy divorced from reality. I speak of accurate thinking applied like a laser beam to definite purpose through the magnificent law of belief. You may labor 12 hours each day until your hands bleed and your back aches. You may toil through struggles that would break lesser men, making sacrifices that bring tears to your eyes. But if your thoughts remain vague and shapeless, if your belief flickers like a candle in a hurricane, then your results will mock your efforts with cruel indifference. The subconscious mind, that silent giant that shapes your world, does not respond to the quantity of your effort. It responds to the quality of your conviction, to what you believe with absolute certainty is already yours by divine right. This is why belief, when backed by the unwavering definiteness of purpose, possesses more raw power than work alone could ever generate. Work without belief is energy scattered to the four winds, accomplishing nothing of lasting value. Belief without action remains nothing more than a beautiful daydream, pleasant but powerless. But belief fused with decisive action becomes an irresistible force that moves mountains and reshapes the very fabric of reality. There exists a vast gulf between the man who merely wishes and the man who believes with every atom of his being. The wisher hopes with the weakness of uncertainty, sending out feeble prayers to an indifferent universe. The believer knows with the strength of absolute certainty, commanding reality to conform to his vision. The wisher waits for permission from a world that will never grant it. The believer acts without asking, creating his own authority through the power of his convictions. The wisher looks to the world for proof before he will commit his heart to the pursuit. The believer commits first, and then compels the world to yield the proof he demands. The world has never rewarded the man who waits with folded hands and bowed head. It pours its treasures into the lap of the man who declares his intentions with thunderous conviction. Wishing is the language of weakness, the dialect of the defeated. But belief supported by unwavering decision becomes an irresistible force that the universe itself cannot deny. Therefore, I give you this truth to carry in your heart like a sacred flame. I am the absolute master of my belief. What I believe with passionate emotion and act upon with decisive action becomes as real as the ground beneath my feet. Speak these words aloud, not once in a whisper, but every morning as the sun kisses the horizon, every evening as darkness claims the sky, until your mind no longer questions their validity. Speak them until your speech, your posture, and your every action declare them without the slightest hesitation. Continue speaking them until doubt withers and dies in the brilliance of your conviction. Speak them until you become the living embodiment of what you speak. The tongue is the steering wheel of your subconscious mind, and belief is the engine that drives it forward. If you hesitate in your speech, the world hesitates in its response. If you speak with the authority of absolute belief, the world has no choice but to obey your commands. This is the strange and perfect symmetry that governs all of life. Your outer world is always a precise reflection of your inner world. You do not need to chase success like a hunter pursuing elusive prey. You need only to chase the unshakable certainty that success is already yours. When your inner belief becomes as solid as granite, your outer world becomes as obedient as a well-trained servant. Men do not achieve victory through random chance or favorable accidents. They win through internal cause, and that cause is always, without exception, a belief they refuse to question. Even when the entire world stands against them, you must now turn your attention to dismantling the resistance that lurks within your own consciousness. Every excuse that whispers, "Perhaps not," every hesitation that suggests, "Maybe later," every fear that hisses, "It won't work for you." These are lies you have accepted from voices that surrendered their own power long ago. You were not born carrying the burden of that doubt. It was planted in your mind by those who gave up on their own magnificent potential. The hour has come to reject these poisonous thoughts completely. Tear them from your consciousness as you would tear thorns from your garden. Replace every mental hesitation with this phrase that carries the power of absolute certainty. It is mine, because I have decided it must be so. Some will tell you that acting as if your goal is already achieved is nothing more than self-deception, a dangerous delusion that leads to disappointment. They are tragically mistaken. To act as if nothing is impossible is not fantasy. It is spiritual law in operation. The Creator did not bestow upon you the gift of imagination so you could waste it on meaningless pretense. He gave you this divine faculty so you could preview the future in vivid detail before it arrives in the physical world. And belief, that magnificent force, makes the future arrive according to your specifications. Act as if the wealth you desire is already flowing toward you like a mighty river, and it will begin to assemble itself through means you never imagined. Act as if the position you seek is already yours, and your mind will gather the resources and opportunities needed to claim it. There exists a spiritual principle at work here, one that is not taught in the corridors of formal education or whispered in the conversations of average minds. This principle declares, what you consistently believe and act upon with feeling and definiteness must externalize itself in the world of form and substance. The world does not resist your belief. It responds to it with the obedience of a faithful servant. Reality molds itself to match your inner commands with mathematical precision. You are not waiting for conditions to change according to some distant schedule. Conditions are waiting for you to believe with the intensity that commands change. Therefore, I declare again with solemn intensity that penetrates to your very soul. If you change your mind and act as if your desired outcome were already an accomplished fact, life has no choice but to conform to your new pattern of thought. The laws of success are not delayed by your environment, your formal education, or the circumstances of your upbringing. They are delayed only by the weakness of your indecision. If you wish to witness change in your external world, you must first become that change in your internal world. Speak with the authority of one who has already achieved. Walk with the confidence that comes from absolute certainty. Carry yourself as if you are already the man you seek to become, not as if you hope you might become him someday. Begin this transformation today. Not tomorrow when you feel more prepared. Not next week when circumstances seem more favorable. Begin now, in this very moment. Write your definite chief aim with the clarity of crystal. State it aloud with power that shakes the foundations of doubt. Read it every morning and every evening with emotion that sets your soul on fire. Back it with feeling so intense that your entire being vibrates with its energy. Command your inner world with the authority of a king ruling his domain, and your outer world will follow with the loyalty of devoted subjects. You are not small and insignificant. You are not weak and helpless. You are a master builder of reality, and your belief is the hammer with which you shape your destiny. Use it with skill, with purpose, with unwavering determination. Shape your future with deliberate strokes of consciousness. Declare with voice that thunders through the corridors of your mind. I am the man who makes the impossible submit to my will, and I act like it every moment of every day. Now we advance to the second great truth, the faith that commands all circumstances. Faith is not a gentle whisper in the gathering darkness or a timid hope nursed in secret corners of the heart. Faith is the mind's iron declaration, forged in the fires of absolute conviction, that what I see burning within the vision of my consciousness shall become what surrounds me in the physical world. Faith is not passive. It is power incarnate. It is fire that consumes all opposition. It is the irresistible force that drives men to move mountains of impossibility, not because they possess proof that such feats can be accomplished, but because they have decided with finality that these things must be accomplished. Faith is the spiritual substance from which every great achievement in human history has been constructed. In my masterwork, Think and Grow Rich, I revealed that faith is a state of mind that can be induced, cultivated, and strengthened through the scientific application of autosuggestion. This is the vital key that unlocks the treasure house of achievement. Faith is not dispensed to you by fate or fortune. You manufacture it through what you speak with conviction, what you feel with intensity, and what you repeat with unwavering consistency. Faith is the master chemistry of consciousness itself. It is the divine elixir that breathes life into mere thought, transforming it from vaporous idea into concrete reality. Without faith, your most cherished aims remain lifeless words on paper. With faith burning in your heart, your thoughts become spiritual commands that penetrate all resistance and reshape the world according to your will. Let me illuminate this truth with crystal clarity. You do not sit passively waiting for faith to descend upon you like morning dew. You do not beg the world to provide evidence before you commit your heart to belief. That is not faith. That is indecision masquerading in the costume of logic. You decide to believe with the authority of absolute choice. You speak that belief. You act upon it with unwavering consistency. You live it with every breath, and the feeling of unshakable faith will follow as surely as spring follows winter. Once that feeling takes root in your consciousness, it must be held, intensified, and directed like a powerful laser beam toward your definite chief aim. This is precisely how men build empires from nothing but vision and will. Consider the magnificent example of Henry Ford, a man not formally trained in engineering, not certified by academic institutions, not backed by powerful financiers or influential connections. He conceived in his mind the revolutionary idea of the V8 engine and demanded that it be built by his engineering team. His own experts, men with impressive credentials and years of experience, declared the task impossible. Ford's response was as simple as it was powerful: build it anyway. For months they returned to him with reports of failure, technical obstacles, and insurmountable challenges. And each time, Ford repeated his command: produce it. Why did he persist when logic suggested surrender? Because faith burned in his heart like an unquenchable flame. He saw the engine first in the crystal-clear vision of his mind. He believed in its reality without apology or compromise. And the world, recognizing the absolute authority of his conviction, obeyed his unwavering faith. You must understand with perfect clarity that the world bent to Ford's will because Ford never bent his belief to the world's limitations. He did not compromise with doubt or negotiate with the voice of impossibility. He issued a command from the depths of his consciousness and held to it without the slightest retreat, even when evidence suggested he should abandon his vision. That is faith in its purest form, not faith in other people, not faith in systems or circumstances, but faith in the unlimited power of thought when backed by unshakable decision. Ford did not wonder whether the engine could be built while lying awake at night. He acted throughout each day as if its successful completion was already an accomplished fact. And so it became reality. The power of acting as if your goal is already achieved is not theatrical performance or wishful thinking. It is preparation of the highest order. It is spiritual law in magnificent operation. When you move through life as the man who already possesses his goal, you train your subconscious mind to reject all thoughts, circumstances, and influences that contradict your vision. You are not pretending to be successful while secretly believing you are doomed to failure. You are programming your consciousness for victory. You are forming within your inner world a belief so strong, so consistent, so emotionally charged, that your entire being begins to align with its magnetic pull. This is how you command circumstances instead of being commanded by them. Let no voice of mediocrity tell you that faith is idle or impractical. Faith works with greater intensity than fear could ever generate. But unlike fear, which stumbles blindly through darkness, faith moves forward with perfect vision. Faith sees the invisible with crystal clarity. It speaks confidently of the unseen. It walks into tomorrow fully clothed in today's absolute confidence. The man who walks in genuine faith does not require the applause of crowds, the proof of skeptics, or the reassurance of doubters. He acts from the authority of inner law, and the universe obeys him because he first learned to obey the voice of his own clearly defined purpose. I walk in faith, speak in faith, act in faith every moment of every day. The invisible shall become visible because I have decided with absolute finality that it must. The tragedy that befalls most men is not that they aim too high and miss their target. The tragedy is that they never aim at all, choosing instead to drift through life like ships without compass or destination. They wait for signs from heaven, for guarantees written in contracts, for applause from others before they commit their hearts to any worthy pursuit. But the man who possesses genuine faith has already committed internally with such intensity that he requires no external consent or approval. He acts with unwavering conviction because he knows with absolute certainty that the world does not shape belief. Belief shapes the world according to its own specifications. I repeat this truth for emphasis. Faith is belief fused with white-hot emotion and focused with laser precision upon a definite chief aim. It is built through deliberate repetition. It is strengthened through unwavering decision, and it is proven beyond all doubt by the magnificent fruits it produces in the harvest of achievement. Show me a man of great faith, and I will show you a man whose life overflows with results that astound the world. Faith is not invisible to those who observe its operation. It leaves evidence carved in stone. It leaves monuments that endure for generations. It leaves wealth that multiplies through time. It leaves influence that shapes the destiny of nations. These achievements are not the source of faith. They are its inevitable result. You must now examine your own consciousness with unflinching honesty. Do you speak your aims with belief that resonates like a bell? Or do you whisper them with hesitation that betrays your doubt? Do you carry yourself as the man who knows his success is as certain as tomorrow's sunrise? Or as one who merely wishes success might visit him if conditions become favorable? Remember this immutable law. Your outer world will never exceed the boundaries of your inner confidence. If doubt rules your thoughts, you delay your victory. If belief governs your consciousness, you accelerate your triumph beyond all reasonable expectation. Speak what you intend to receive with the authority of divine right. Speak it until your voice echoes through every chamber of your subconscious mind, like thunder rolling across the sky. Faith, in its tender early stages, must be guarded with the vigilance of a soldier protecting sacred ground. It must be shielded from the criticisms of the faithless, the sarcasm of the mediocre, and the corrosive doubts of those who drift through life without purpose or direction. You must not share your vision with those whose eyes are blind to its beauty and power. Walk alone if you must, but walk always in the light of unwavering belief. Speak your affirmations in the privacy of your own chamber if the world mocks them, but speak them with passion that ignites your soul. Feel them in every fiber of your being. Build your castle first in the realm of thought and hold it there with absolute conviction until stone and steel begin to appear in the material world. Let me share with you something sacred that burns in the depths of truth. You will never possess what you are afraid to claim as your own. If fear prevents you from speaking your aims with conviction, you will never build them into reality. If hesitation causes you to question your right to achieve greatness, you will never experience the triumph that could be yours. The wise man once declared, "To him that hath, more shall be given." But I say to you with the authority of one who has witnessed this law in operation, the man who believes he already possesses his goal, even before physical proof appears, shall receive that which others declared was beyond the realm of possibility. Now take up your definite chief aim once more. Read it aloud with voice that commands attention. Close your eyes and see it with perfect clarity. Feel its reality in your hands. Walk through the corridors of your imagination and take your seat at the table of your vision. Meet your future self face to face. Shake his hand with recognition. Hear his voice speaking your name with pride. Act as if your success is already an accomplished fact, and it shall be accomplished beyond your wildest dreams. Now we ascend to the third revelation. Nothing is impossible to the mind that believes. There exists no such thing as impossibility to the consciousness that burns with genuine belief. Impossibility is not a condition imposed by the natural world. It is a confession of defeat, uttered by the man who has surrendered dominion over his own thoughts before the battle has even begun. When a man declares, "It cannot be done," what his words truly reveal is this: I do not believe I possess the power to accomplish this goal. And because belief serves as the gatekeeper to all action, that man never begins the journey, never builds the foundation, never breaks through the barriers that separate him from victory. He suffers defeat in the silence of his own consciousness before he ever enters the arena of achievement. The world is not governed by real limitations carved in stone by the hand of fate. It is shaped and molded by the artificial limits that men accept as truth, limits that are not natural laws but poisonous lies inherited from the failures of previous generations who pass their doubts forward as if they were divine commandments. But I declare to you with the full force of absolute conviction, the human mind, when focused with unwavering intensity upon a definite objective and backed by faith that burns like eternal fire, must bring forth into physical reality that which it conceives with passionate emotion. For there exists no idea too grand to be achieved, no vision too magnificent to be manifested. There are only men who doubt their own unlimited potential. You must understand the incredible power of your own subconscious mind. This mighty force possesses no sense of humor that would mock your aspirations. It does not question whether your goals exceed reasonable expectations. It does not evaluate the logic of your dreams or measure them against the opinions of skeptics. It simply accepts whatever you plant in its fertile soil through repetition backed by intense emotion. If you feed it repetition of belief, courage, abundance, and success, it begins to create circumstances that match those dominant thoughts. If you plant the seeds of fear, doubt, limitation, and failure, it obeys with equal precision, producing conditions that reflect those negative patterns. Your subconscious mind is like rich earth that grows whatever seeds you choose to plant, whether those seeds will produce flowers or weeds. Allow me to share the inspiring story of a man whose unwavering belief banished impossibility from his world. Thomas Edison, the man whose genius lit the world and transformed civilization itself, did not discover the electric lamp because he possessed more formal education than his contemporaries. He was not the wealthiest man seeking the solution. Fate did not hand him a detailed blueprint for success. He possessed one thing, and it proved sufficient to move mountains: a burning desire that consumed his thoughts day and night, and an absolute belief that the light existed in the realm of possibility and must be brought forth into reality through human effort and determination. For 10,000 attempts, imagine the magnitude of that number, he met with what others called failure. Yet never once did Edison accept defeat as final. Do you comprehend the incredible power of that mental attitude? 10,000 trials, 10,000 obstacles that would have crushed the spirit of ordinary men. And yet Edison never once accepted the word impossible into his vocabulary. His response to each setback revealed the secret of his ultimate triumph. I have not failed. I have discovered 10,000 ways that will not work, bringing me 10,000 steps closer to the method that will. With each so-called failure, his belief grew stronger rather than weaker. He acted throughout every day as if the electric light was already his to command, and therefore his consciousness found the way to transform vision into reality. This achievement was not the result of luck or favorable circumstances. This was not the work of fate randomly blessing one man above others. This was spiritual law in magnificent operation, demonstrating that persistence backed by unwavering belief must eventually overcome every obstacle. You may not seek to become an inventor, but the principle remains exactly the same. If you hold your aim with the same intensity Edison brought to his quest, and if you believe in its inevitable arrival before the world recognizes its reality, the world will have no choice but to reshape itself around your vision with mathematical precision. You do not require 10 different talents or a dozen favorable conditions. You need only one belief, and that belief when fused with persistence that refuses to acknowledge defeat, will bend the entire world to accommodate your plan. Let this affirmation become your daily command, spoken with fire that ignites your soul. I command the impossible to submit to my will. I speak what must be, and I act until it becomes so. Speak these words with vision that sees beyond present circumstances. Repeat them until your actions become bold, your speech becomes certain, and your eyes learn to look only forward toward the mountain peak of achievement. There exists no mountain that can resist the determined advance of the man who refuses to retreat even one step backward. You must make the decision now that you are finished negotiating with impossibility. You will no longer entertain its whispered suggestions or bow to its false authority. But I must warn you of the thieves that would steal this power from your consciousness. They do not wear masks or break into your home under cover of darkness. They break into your thoughts with stealth that would shame the most cunning criminal. They appear in the form of what I have identified as the 6 ghosts of fear. If you are to walk in the full power of your potential, you must know their names with perfect clarity, and you must reject their influence every single day of your life. They are the fear of poverty that paralyzes initiative, the fear of criticism that silences your voice, the fear of ill health that weakens your resolve, the fear of loss of love that makes you dependent, the fear of old age that steals your urgency, and the fear of death that prevents you from truly living. Of these 6 destructive forces, 2 pose the greatest danger to the man pursuing a life of belief and achievement. The first is the fear of criticism, which paralyzes your expression and causes you to hesitate before speaking your truth with conviction. The second is the fear of poverty, which imprisons your imagination and convinces you that safety lies in thinking small. If you entertain these fears for even a moment, you interrupt the powerful current of faith flowing through your consciousness. You plant seeds of doubt in the garden of your mind that will grow like weeds, choking out the flowers of possibility. If you wish to walk in genuine belief, you must guard your inner world with the vigilance of a sentinel watching over a treasure beyond price. No seed of doubt must be permitted to take root in the sacred soil of your consciousness. You must monitor your thoughts as carefully as a master gardener tends his prize roses. You must speak only words that reinforce your power, only thoughts that strengthen your resolve. The subconscious mind listens with perfect attention to every word you speak, every joke you tell, every complaint you utter. Whatever you repeat with emotion, it accepts as your true desire and begins to create accordingly. Therefore, you must speak with deliberate intention. You must declare the impossible as inevitable, not as a distant hope, but as a present reality. Do not say, "I hope this will happen." Do not whisper, "I wish circumstances would change." Say with authority that commands obedience, "I am." Say with conviction that moves mountains, "It is done." Say with faith that transforms worlds, "This is mine by divine right," and then act in perfect accordance with those declarations. Dress as if success is already yours. Move as if victory flows through your veins. Spend your time as if you are already the man you have decided to become. Believe as if the evidence surrounds you, not because proof currently exists, but because you are planting the seeds of that evidence in the fertile soil of faith. This is how a man who believes conducts his life. He does not wait for permission from a world that never grants it. He creates reality through the power of his own consciousness. You may have been told you lack sufficient experience for your dreams. You may have been told you are starting too late, or too early, or with too little money, or without proper qualifications. But the man who believes does not consult those limiting opinions. He does not measure his power by the shallow standards of the world around him. He measures his potential by the unlimited laws of thought, which obey belief and persistence rather than pedigree or circumstance. You are not defined by what others say about your chances. You are defined by what you decide to believe about your power and what you consistently prove through bold, decisive action. Remember this truth. Failure is not final unless you accept it as real and permanent. The difference between the man who succeeds and the man who admits defeat often has nothing to do with resources, skill, or favorable luck. The difference lies in whether he accepted failure as final or simply reclassified it as another valuable step toward inevitable victory. Every delay becomes a test of belief. Every obstacle becomes an invitation to double your faith and strengthen your resolve. If you refuse to turn back, if you continue moving forward regardless of appearances, you will reach your desired destination. The world possesses no defense against a man who never quits pursuing his clearly defined purpose. Therefore, go now and face your doubts with courage. Banish them from your consciousness like an emperor expelling traitors from his kingdom. Replace every whisper of limitation with thunderous declarations of belief. Look upon your vision with new eyes that refuse to blink in the face of challenge. Refuse to shrink from your destiny. Refuse to second-guess the wisdom of your own heart. Say aloud with voice that shakes the foundations of doubt, "Nothing is impossible to me, for I believe without retreat, and I act without fear." Let these words become the theme song of your transformed life. Now we arrive at the fourth essential truth, the mental ritual that changes reality itself. You do not attract what you want through wishful thinking or passive hope. You attract what you are prepared to receive, and that preparation does not begin with changing your environment or waiting for favorable circumstances. It begins with transforming your thoughts, your beliefs, your inner conversations. The man who waits for external conditions to improve before he changes his behavior will wait throughout eternity, watching opportunity after opportunity pass him by. But the man who changes himself first, who acts as if his desired future has already arrived in the present moment, commands all conditions to align with his example. This is the principle that governs all transformation. Act as if your goal were already accomplished, and it shall be accomplished through means that will astound you. You must conduct yourself in thought, speech, and physical movement exactly like the man who already possesses the result you seek. This is not deception or make-believe. This is the highest form of creation, the very method by which reality is shaped and molded. Every man who ever achieved greatness began walking the path of victory long before the world noticed his footsteps. He thought, believed, and spoke as if his name was already carved in the halls of history. It was not the world that eventually crowned him with success. It was his own unwavering conviction that demanded the crown and refused to accept any substitute. The mind operates as a creature of habit, and your subconscious mind, possessing no independent will of its own, follows with perfect obedience the habits you assign to it through repetition and emotional intensity. If you consistently act as a poor man thinks and moves, your subconscious will deliver poverty to your doorstep. If you habitually behave as a victim of circumstances, it will create increasingly unjust situations to support that identity. But if you consistently act as the leader, the producer, the master of your own fate, then your subconscious begins to magnetize the ideas, the people, the opportunities, and the circumstances that perfectly match that elevated self-image. This is why you must write your definite chief aim not as a future possibility, but as a present reality. Do not write, "I hope to become successful." Write with the authority of absolute certainty. I am successful. Do not say, "I wish to have financial freedom." Declare with conviction that commands obedience, "I now possess abundant wealth." Make every word bold, definite, unshakable as granite. Take that powerful statement and read it aloud twice each day. Once as the morning sun begins to paint the sky, once as evening settles over the earth. Read it not with the lifeless tone of boredom, but with emotion that sets your soul ablaze. Read it with vision that sees beyond present appearances. Read it until every cell in your body believes its truth, and then continue reading it until belief becomes as natural as breathing. You must see yourself already in complete possession of your desired result. That vision must live with vivid reality in the theater of your imagination, not occasionally when inspiration strikes, but as a daily mental ritual as regular as your morning meal. This is the sacred act of training your subconscious to accept a new identity as its own. Your old self, the version of you filled with doubt and delay, must be evicted without mercy. Your new self, the man who commands impossibility to bow to his will, must be invited to take permanent residence through every repetition of belief, every declaration of faith. Understand clearly that this ritual involves far more than merely reading words from a piece of paper. It requires becoming the man described in those words. You must walk into each day wearing his identity like a perfectly fitted garment. You must speak to others with his posture of confidence, his tone of authority, his rhythm of certainty. When you speak of your aims to others, do so as if you are unveiling already accomplished facts, not requesting permission for dreams to exist. Act as if the ink on your destiny's contract has already dried and cannot be changed. Allow me to illustrate this principle through the remarkable example of Andrew Carnegie, who built his steel empire not through force or manipulation, but through the power of absolute belief. Carnegie did not wait for others to prove their worth before treating them as great leaders. He treated every associate as if they were already magnificent men destined for extraordinary achievement. By consistently acting as if their greatness was an established fact, he caused them to rise and match the elevated image he held of their potential. This demonstrates the silent law that governs all relationships. When you act as if something is true long enough with sufficient emotional conviction, it must become true in the world of form and substance. The ritual of morning and evening autosuggestion is not idle superstition practiced by the weak-minded. It is the furnace in which human identity is reforged, the laboratory where new selves are created. If you rise each morning and immediately read your aim aloud with crystal clarity and passionate feeling, you establish the commanding tone for your entire day. If you speak it each night before surrendering to sleep, you hand your subconscious mind a direct command to work upon while you rest, weaving the fabric of your future while your conscious mind recovers. Over time, this rhythm of belief becomes the inner music of your transformed life, overriding all previous mental noise and confusion. Now, make this declaration with the full force of your being. I conduct myself in thought, speech, and action, as if I already possess the result I seek with burning desire. Say it with finality that admits no compromise. Do not whisper it like a timid request. Own it like a king claiming his rightful throne. What you declare with sufficient repetition becomes immutable law in the kingdom of your subconscious mind. Once that law is written in the depths of consciousness, the mighty machinery of your mind begins to move in its service with precision that defies explanation. Ideas emerge from sources you never expected. Energy increases beyond your normal capacity. Coincidences appear with such frequency that skeptics would call them miraculous. Why does this transformation occur? Because you have changed the fundamental vibration of your identity. and the universe responds to that new frequency with mathematical exactness. Let me emphasize this crucial point. This transformation requires no approval from others, no permission from authority figures, no applause from crowds. You do not need external validation to act as if you possess unlimited power. You do not require titles or credentials to behave with natural authority. You do not need wealth in your bank account to speak like a master builder of fortunes. These external symbols come after the behavior, not before it. Your actions must lead the parade. Your emotions must follow their example, and the world must then respond to the new reality you have created through the sheer force of your conviction. Let us examine the language of behavior, for it speaks louder than any words you could utter. The man who acts as if he is defeated carries slouched shoulders that broadcast his surrender. He avoids eye contact that might reveal his inner weakness. He speaks in uncertain tones that betray his lack of confidence. He hides from challenges that could prove his worth. Contrast this with the man who acts as if victory flows through his veins like liquid gold. He stands tall with shoulders that proclaim his readiness for any battle. He meets every gaze directly, with eyes that shine with inner fire. He speaks with calm command that compels attention and respect. He walks toward every struggle with the eagerness of a warrior who knows the outcome is already decided in his favor. These contrasting behaviors are not random accidents of personality. They are direct reflections of the beliefs burning in the depths of consciousness. You must choose deliberately which version of yourself you will breathe into existence through your daily choices. But what if doubt still clings to your thoughts like morning fog? What if fear refuses to release its grip on your imagination? Then act anyway, for action repeated with consistency will strangle doubt more effectively than any amount of positive thinking alone. There exists no greater antidote to uncertainty than bold movement in the direction of your dreams. You cannot afford to wait until you feel completely confident before you behave with unwavering conviction. That is not how transformation operates in the real world. You must earn confidence through courageous performance, one bold action at a time. Each time you act in faith despite your fears, your mind collects powerful evidence that you are indeed who you claim to be. Soon, a remarkable shift occurs in the depths of your being. A new identity emerges like a butterfly from its cocoon, one that no longer plays small, no longer hides behind past mistakes, no longer trembles at the opinions of the world. You begin to carry your purpose with the dignity of nobility. You speak with the authority that comes from absolute belief in your mission. The world begins to treat you differently, not because it changed, but because you transformed yourself so completely that the world had no choice but to respond to your new reality. You are not walking this earth to impress others with shallow performances. You are here to express the full, magnificent potential of the man dwelling within your consciousness. That man has been waiting patiently for your permission to emerge. He requires no additional information, no more favorable conditions. He requires only the repetition of empowering thoughts, the discipline of consistent action, the ritual of morning and evening transformation. Through that sacred ritual, practiced with religious devotion, he will rise to claim his rightful place in the world. Therefore, I say again with emphasis that burns itself into your memory. Write your aim with clarity that cuts through confusion. Speak it aloud twice daily with emotion that ignites your soul, with vision that sees beyond present limitations, with certainty that commands respect. Act as if your success is already yours to command. Conduct yourself always in the image of the man who has already received everything he dared to desire. This is not fiction or fantasy. This is the proven formula that has created every fortune, built every empire, and achieved every goal worthy of human effort. Thousands have used this method to transform their lives beyond recognition. You shall now be counted among their number, not as a follower, but as a master of your own magnificent destiny. The fifth revelation awaits: what the subconscious mind obeys without question. There exists but one realm over which you exercise absolute, unconditional control, and that realm is your own mind. This truth stands as the cornerstone upon which all lasting achievement is built. You may not control the actions of others or bend them to your will. You may not control the rising and falling tides of economic conditions or the decisions that flow from the minds of men in positions of power. But you control with sovereign authority the thoughts that flow through your consciousness, the beliefs that take root in your mental soil, the inner conversations that shape your daily experience. By mastering this internal kingdom with the skill of a wise ruler, you come to influence everything that manifests in your external world. All conditions in your life will follow the pattern established by your dominant beliefs as surely as rivers follow the paths carved by their banks. Your subconscious mind operates as the silent architect of your circumstances, the invisible hand that shapes every condition surrounding you. But it possesses no creative power of its own, no independent agenda to pursue. It must be directed by your conscious choices. It does not originate thought. It receives the thoughts you plant and grows them into reality. It possesses no ability to distinguish between truth and falsehood, between wealth and poverty, between victory and defeat. It acts with perfect obedience upon whatever you impress upon its receptive surface through repetition backed by emotional intensity. Whatever seeds you plant in its fertile soil, it must grow according to their nature. Think of your subconscious as the richest, most productive farmland in existence. If you plant the thorns of doubt, the weeds of fear, the poison of limitation, those destructive growths will take root and overrun your entire garden of possibility. But if you plant the seeds of strength, purpose, belief, and crystal clarity, and if you water them daily with the living water of absolute conviction, then abundance in every form will rise to greet you. The field of consciousness does not argue with your choices. It does not discriminate between seeds of success and seeds of failure. It obeys with perfect faithfulness whatever instructions you provide. Your responsibility is not to beg the soil to produce favorable results. Your job is to plant deliberately with full knowledge of what you are doing, and to weed out every seed of confusion before it can contaminate your harvest. Your subconscious responds with greatest power to commands spoken aloud with conviction, repeated daily with the regularity of natural law, and backed with definite emotion that stirs the depths of your being. This is precisely why I have insisted with such emphasis upon writing your definite chief aim and reading it twice daily with passion that ignites your soul. This is not ritual for the sake of ritual, not empty ceremony that accomplishes nothing. This is a precise programming instruction delivered to your inner world, a direct command to the forces that shape your outer reality. The mind, once charged with definite thought backed by unwavering emotion, begins immediately to seek every opportunity, connection, and circumstance that aligns perfectly with that commanding vision. But there exists another force, one that multiplies the power of the individual mind beyond all reasonable calculation. I speak of the mastermind principle, the phenomenon that occurs when two or more minds are brought together in perfect harmony, focused with laser intensity upon a common objective. When this alignment occurs, a third mind emerges, a greater mind that possesses wisdom and power beyond what any individual could generate alone. This is not philosophical theory spinning in academic circles. This is demonstrable principle that has built every great fortune and achieved every monumental goal in human history. The minds of great men become even greater through harmonious association with other minds that share their burning desire, their crystal clarity, their unwavering belief in the inevitable success of their mission. Allow me to share the inspiring story of Charles M. Schwab, one of the brightest examples of applied belief working through the mastermind principle to create extraordinary results. Schwab was not born into wealth or privilege. He inherited no vast fortune, possessed no political power, enjoyed no influential connections. But he carried within his consciousness a belief that burned like eternal fire, the absolute conviction that he could rise to heights that would astound the world. He aligned himself with Andrew Carnegie, who recognized not merely Schwab's technical talent, but something far more valuable: his spirit, his definiteness of purpose, his unshakable belief in his own destiny. Schwab acted and believed every day as if he already possessed the capacity to lead men, to command respect, to build great enterprises. Soon his belief became reality, for Carnegie placed him in charge of the greatest steel operation in the nation. Not because of his years of experience, not because of impressive credentials or academic degrees, but because he possessed the spirit of command that had been forged in the fires of absolute belief. When Schwab's mind joined with Carnegie's in harmonious pursuit of their shared vision, they produced plans, strategies, and innovations that neither could have conceived while working alone. The power of their mastermind alliance became the furnace of achievement, and faith in their mission provided the fuel that kept the fires burning through every challenge and setback. Together, they built an empire of steel that transformed an entire industry and influenced the course of history. Now, listen with careful attention to this crucial truth. Your subconscious mind will inevitably mirror the dominant belief of those you associate with most often. If you surround yourself with doubters and skeptics, their poison of uncertainty will contaminate your subconscious mind. If you walk in the company of critics and complainers, their negativity will cloud your inner vision like storm clouds blocking the sun. But if you form a mastermind alliance with those who believe as you do, those who affirm the power of the human spirit, those who pursue their purposes with unwavering determination, then your own belief will multiply beyond your individual capacity. You must therefore choose your influences with the wisdom of a king selecting his most trusted advisors. Let no man or woman enter your inner circle who does not support your vision with enthusiasm. Let no conversation poison your ears with words that weaken your conviction or diminish your sense of possibility. Let no habitual voice dwell near the sacred chambers of your subconscious if it does not speak consistently of growth, power, and purposeful achievement. You are the sovereign gatekeeper of your own consciousness. You must guard your mind as carefully as a king guards the royal treasury, for your thoughts are the currency of your destiny. Repeat this affirmation with commanding authority. My subconscious receives only commands of power, purpose, and inevitable triumph. It obeys my dominant desire with perfect faithfulness. Speak these words in the golden light of morning. Declare them in the quiet hours of evening. Let them ring through your consciousness when doubt dares to knock at your door. When delay tempts you to slow your advance, remember that your subconscious listens with perfect attention to every word you speak. It always listens, and the voice it hears most frequently, it obeys most completely. Now we arrive at the sixth essential principle, the destroyer of doubt. Indecision stands as the seedbed where failure takes root and flourishes. It creates the breeding ground for fear, hesitation, and the aimless drift that destroys more dreams than poverty or hardship ever could. Where no decision exists, there can be no clear direction. And where direction is absent, victory becomes impossible. A man who cannot decide will forever bow in servitude to to the man who possesses the courage to choose his path. Life shows favor not to the reckless gambler, but to the definite man who knows what he wants and moves toward it with unwavering determination. Decision represents the first and most crucial act of the man who has claimed dominion over his own destiny. Doubt possesses no inherent power until you feed it with your attention and indecision. The moment you delay action, you have already begun to retreat from your goal. You may dress your hesitation in careful language, calling it prudence, wisdom, or reasonable caution. But your subconscious mind knows the truth. It feels your uncertainty and begins to mirror that confusion in your outer circumstances. The longer you postpone decisive action, the deeper the roots of fear grow in the garden of your consciousness. The world waits for no man and shows no mercy to confusion. It responds with enthusiasm to decision and recoils from uncertainty, like a flower shrinking from frost. Faith cannot operate effectively in a house divided against itself. You cannot claim to believe in your purpose while simultaneously postponing your commitment to its achievement. The man who says, "I am waiting for a clearer sign," will wait throughout eternity. The man who declares, "I must think about this longer," is already being ruled by the tyranny of fear disguised as logic. True decision is not born from perfect clarity or complete information. It springs from inner authority, from the spiritual conviction that says, "This is my chosen path," and walks it with confidence even when the road ahead remains shrouded in uncertainty. Let us examine the devastating cost of chronic indecision. Every time you hesitate when action is called for, you train your mind to distrust its own judgment. Your subconscious, being always obedient to your patterns of behavior, observes your delay and begins to believe you are not serious about your stated goals. It gradually withdraws its creative energy. It ceases to build momentum toward your objectives. The flow of inspired ideas stops. Your willpower begins to weaken like a muscle that has not been exercised. Soon, the window of opportunity that once stood wide open has closed, not by the hand of fate, but by your own tragic indecision. Contrast this self-imposed limitation with the magnificent power that flows from decisive action. When you finally decide with absolute conviction, your energy returns like a river breaking through a dam. Your mind sharpens its focus. The entire world seems to shift in your favor. You begin to notice tools, allies, and opportunities that were invisible while you remained paralyzed by uncertainty. Life rewards the man who has made up his mind with resources and possibilities that seem to appear from nowhere. Nature herself abhors waste, and no greater waste exists than a brilliant mind divided against its own potential. The world bends to the man who knows what he wants and pursues it with the relentless determination of natural law. You must make the unshakable decision that doubt will no longer rule your actions. You must stop negotiating with impossibility and start commanding it to yield to your will. Say this with the fire of absolute conviction: I decide. I act. I believe. I do not waver. And the world follows the man who refuses to flinch. Speak it when uncertainty whispers its poisonous suggestions. Declare it when fear attempts to paralyze your progress. Repeat it until your heart believes it with unshakable faith, and your steps embody its power. The greatest enemy of human progress is not failure. Failure teaches valuable lessons and refines character. The true enemy is doubt, which paralyzes the spirit and leaves a man cold and motionless, staring at the door of opportunity, but never finding the courage to turn the handle and walk through. You must choose in this moment. Will you be a man of endless waiting, or a man of bold movement? Will you live according to the magnificent vision burning in your heart, or will you surrender to the fears that would keep you small and safe? When you look upon your definite chief aim, do not entertain questions about your worthiness. You are worthy by divine right. Do not wonder if your goal is possible. Everything conceived by the human mind can be achieved by human effort, guided by unwavering faith. The only question that matters is this: will you decide to pursue your vision with everything you possess? Once you answer that question with thunderous certainty, every other doubt fades into insignificance. Decision burns the bridges of retreat. It removes the possibility of turning back when challenges arise. The man who ultimately succeeds does so because he has eliminated escape routes and committed himself completely to victory or death in the attempt. When the mind knows there is no alternative to success, it summons strength and resources that were previously unknown. You possess more power than you have ever used, but that power will remain dormant as long as you continue choosing between possibilities instead of committing to one path with absolute dedication. Write your decision in permanent ink. Speak it with the authority of divine command. Commit to it through immediate action. Move now, not tomorrow when fear may have faded, not next week when conditions seem more favorable. Move while fear trembles in your shadow, while doubt stands frozen behind you. The moment you move with genuine conviction, you will feel strength returning to your spirit like the sun breaking through storm clouds. You will feel truly alive again, and the world will recognize the change immediately. People will see a man who has made up his mind, and they will sense the fire behind your eyes, the certainty in your step, the resonance of power in your voice. Men follow clarity of purpose. They follow decisiveness. They follow those who know exactly where they are going and move toward that destination with unshakable resolve. You can be such a man if you decide to claim that identity. You need no permission from others, no validation from authority figures. Only the iron will to speak your truth, to move toward your goals, and to persist until victory is yours. You are the master, and doubt is merely a servant that must be dismissed. The power to transform your life flows through decisive action backed by unwavering faith. Use this power. Shape your destiny with it. Command it, and watch as the impossible bends to your will, like iron heated in the forge of absolute conviction.